signing of one of the biggest trade deals in history has sparked a wave of protests. The fear is that the pact will grant sweeping powers to big business. The Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement includes 12 countries and must now be ratified before it can come into force. There were some arrests outside the signing ceremony in Auckland in New Zealand. It's a big deal as well. It covers some 40% of the world's economy. And the aim is it'll create an EU-style free trade zone by slashing thousands of tariffs between the signatory countries. Well, all well and good, but not everyone can be a winner, of course. Here's what some of the experts are saying might be the outcome. The treaty could have a devastating impact on the workforce, according to a report by some American economists. They say that the US will be the hardest hit, losing almost 500,000 jobs, while other countries in the agreement will only see, quote, negligible gains. Totally, job losses among the 12 nations could reach almost 800,000. The deal's also been slammed for a lack of transparency.
This deal would be a good thing. So let's just do it. We have to make sure America writes the rules of the global economy. Because if we don't write the rules for trade around the world, guess what? China will.
So after 7 years of negotiations behind closed doors, the full text of the deal was released just 90 days before it was signed. Activists argue that was not enough time for a proper debate on the fine print of the controversial pact.
Bloomberg is pushing for a cashless society. That's right, the Bloomberg editorial board issued this op-ed titled "Bring on the Cashless Future," and in it they write, quote, "Cash had a pretty good run for 4,000 years or so. These days, though, notes and coins increasingly seem déclassé. They're dirty and dangerous, unwieldy and expensive, antiquated, and so very analog." Sensing this dissatisfaction, they write, entrepreneurs have introduced hundreds of digital currencies in the past few years, of which Bitcoin is only the most famous. Now governments want in. Yes, we reported here at Next News Network that the People's Bank of China says it intends to issue a digital currency of its own. Central banks in Ecuador, the Philippines, the United Kingdom, and Canada are mulling similar ideas. At least one company now has sprung up to help them along, the article op-ed continues. Much depends on the details, of course, but this is a welcome trend. They say, in theory, digital legal tender could combine the inventiveness of private virtual currencies with the stability of a government mint.
Developing controversy tonight over a historic trip for President Obama. The president today went to visit the Islamic Society of Baltimore, his first trip to a U.S. mosque. While the White House says this visit was about fighting intolerance, this particular mosque was once home to an imam with known ties to multiple terror groups.
Yesterday, Obama stirred the pot of intolerance at a Baltimore mosque. The Obama administration would have us all believe his speech is a needed effort to assure Muslim Americans that they will not be subjected to bigotry, while he shepherds in Syrian refugees into small American towns to fuel Sharia no-go areas akin to the rape and murder invasion being waged on Europe. There was an open display of the Quran and the word Allah placed behind the president 99 times, a stark contrast to Obama's speeches at Christian churches, where, for example, at Georgetown University in 2012, the White House had the name of Christ covered up by request.
The future must not belong to those who slander the Prophet of Islam. But to be credible, those who condemn that slander must also condemn the hate we see in the images of Jesus Christ that are desecrated. As the Holy Quran tells us, be conscious of God and speak always the truth.
American Muslims have been practicing their religion peacefully in the United States since the first mosque was built way back in 1929. Of course, Americans aren't wiping out Muslims, but in the Middle East, Muslims are wiping out Christians at a rate of 100,000 per year. Globalist puppet President Obama is subtly terrorizing the citizens of the United States with a meek anti-American rhetoric that will grow in its boldness as his unconstitutional policies grow stronger and the power of the presidency draws closer into the clutches of globalist puppet Hillary Clinton.
A shocking development out of Britain, where the government is now letting scientists conduct gene editing experiments on human embryos. Right now, the goal is not to produce modified babies, but to find answers to improve fertility treatments. The human embryos will be killed after each experiment. Opponents of the landmark decision say it could open the door to designer babies down the road. And they say it is already bad enough that human lives will now be created and destroyed for experiments.
Of course we want therapeutic cures, but we don't do this at all costs. We don't do this disregarding life itself. That we don't do this thinking that we can experiment, we can create something, we can create an embryo at will.
The move means British scientists will now be allowed to edit genes by deleting or replacing bits of DNA inside living human cells. The U.S. does not allow the use of federal funds for embryo modification, but there is no outright ban on gene editing.
Tornado on the ground. Tornado on the ground. That thing is moving. Tornado. Stay with it. Get right behind it. Get right behind it. Get up behind it. God damn it. Stop.
This video you're looking at is a large wedge tornado that touched down in Aliceville, Alabama yesterday afternoon. Now, this report came in just before 5 o'clock yesterday. This tornado started. It was a large and destructive tornado that caused damage to homes across Pickens County with, believe it or not, only minor injuries reported. Aliceville is about 45 miles west of Tuscaloosa, where a tornado devastated the city in April of 2011. And it wasn't just just Aliceville. Now, this is McMullen, Alabama, which is just in the vicinity of Aliceville. And look at all that damage. Now, this came from one supercell that started in eastern Mississippi. And there's a look at the supercell. So you can see it starting to move to Alabama. Now, this was about a few hours that this supercell tracked and really caused a lot of devastation. Here's a look at all the tornado reports that came out of that supercell in that short period of time yesterday, late afternoon through the early evening. Now, still a lot of homes are without power.
A day after destructive tornadoes swept through the South, the outbreak flattened homes and knocked out power in Mississippi and Alabama. More than 27 million Americans today face more dangerous weather.
And this massive storm stretches from the south to the mid-Atlantic, carrying thunderstorms and snow. David Begnaud is in Collinsville, Mississippi, with the storm's wide reach. David, good morning.
Nora, good morning. This is the First Baptist Church of Collinsville, and the damage is substantial. On any given weekend, there would have been kids inside that gymnasium. But because the tornado hit during the week, it was empty. On this side, you see this building that was used for Sunday school. Look at the top story. The second story, those chairs, now exposed to the elements where kids would have otherwise been sitting. No one was here except the pastor, his wife, and their son. And when the tornado hit, they rushed to the church inside of an office, and they hid underneath a desk.
It's in the water tower!
At least 12 tornadoes reportedly tore through the southern U.S. Tuesday.
There goes that tornado!
Tornado on the ground. Tornado on the ground.
This one touched down in Scuba, Mississippi, and made its way all the way to Alabama, leveling homes and leaving a path of destruction that stretched across both states.
Thank God we're all okay. That's the main thing anytime you have a storm.
In Rankin County, Mississippi, firefighters rescued at least 8 people from rising floodwater.
Seeing them come, that was the best part of it. And when I seen those lights coming down this road, I knew that we were going to be okay.
Willie Jackson and his family hid as a tornado hit their home.
And we survived at the grace of God.
It's right there.
The tornado that hit Collinsville, Mississippi, ripped apart the First Baptist Church. Pastor Wade Ricks told church members he heard the tornado sirens blaring and rushed his family to safety.
The pastor loaded his wife and son up into this white Suburban and pulled it alongside the church, thinking the wall of the building would help protect the vehicle. You can see what happened to the back window.
The Ricks family raced inside the church where they hid under a desk. More than 350 members of the church now need to find a place to worship on Sunday.
Explain the damage to me.
The damage is pretty extreme. Every building has received substantial damage. Most of it, as you can see, is going to have to be pretty much torn down.
The same storm that fueled tornadoes in the south created blizzard-like conditions across the plains. A whiteout condition in southwestern Minnesota prompted a travel ban, while more than a foot of snow fell in parts of Nebraska.
Across the South, we've not gotten any reports of major injuries or even deaths for that matter. Gail, on a lighter note, we're told the pastor here at the First Baptist Church in Collinsville, he preached about weathering the storm last Sunday. His worship minister now says he has no plans of talking about storms for quite a while now.
A huge mess in a historic Midtown Tulsa neighborhood. Massive sinkholes are showing up in backyards, affecting foundations and even tilting one garage. Tonight, 2 Works For You reporter Nathan Edwards explores what neighbors in Maple Ridge think is to blame. Nathan?
Well, Karen, right now we're at a house near 19th and Madison. Plumbers actually put up plywood to keep kids away from the sinkhole. We're standing back for safety reasons. You see piles of dirt stacking up in the yard as they try to fix the problem.
It's just frustration, mostly.
A garage teetering on the edge.
The foundation on the whole back corner has fallen into the hole.
A sinkhole turning Catherine Oftenkamp's yard into a construction site.
It's pretty disturbing when you find a 9-foot hole in the backyard where your children and pets play. And it's pretty scary.
Catherine says a city sewage pipe is to blame. Just 2 doors down, Ryan Sakra dealing with issues going on 4 years now.
It's leaning this way and back towards the excavation that was done by the city.
His garage tilting toward that same pipe, having to build an emergency wall to keep it standing.
The city said it wasn't their fault, that they're not responsible for their contractors.
Ryan says the contractor's sloppy work caused these problems, later suing them for damages. But the headaches aren't over, noticing a new sinkhole behind his garage.
Somebody needs to step up here and take care of this.
The main sewage line running from house to house is run by the city. Two Works for You problem solvers reaching out to them tonight to get something done.
I can tell you what's going to happen going forward is those main lines, the city's responsibility, they will get fixed.
The city's engineer says homeowners should not have to put up with this. But Catherine says the damage has been done.
It'll be well over $10,000 before we're done.
A costly problem the city plans on addressing tomorrow. I'm told they'll have crews out here first thing in the morning. Live in Midtown Tulsa, Nathan Edwards, Two Works for You.
Michiganders may have seen something extraordinary Monday night, a fireball meteor streaking across the sky, and now we have the video.
That's right. Storm teammate Ellen Baca is at one of our local observatories to find out more on the surprise sighting. Ellen?
You know, it wasn't just Michigan. It was actually places across Ohio, Indiana, Pennsylvania, Illinois, even Ontario that saw this fireball. And while we didn't get any video of it here, here's a spot that did see some video. It's an automated station in Wisconsin. One of their sky cams picked up the fireball streaking across the sky, and notice it only takes a few seconds for it to fall. More than 160 people in both Wisconsin and Michigan saw the fireball and reported it on Monday night. They did this via the American Meteor Society website. And most of the reports came from Wisconsin and Michigan, likely because of where the fireball fell. This is a heat map showing the trajectory of the meteor, and you can see it slicing across the middle of Lake Michigan, fully visible to each state. Now, I'm joined now in the Observation Center, the observatory, with Larry Molnar, and he is a professor of astronomy and physics here at Calvin College, and he was telling me a little bit more about the predictability of meteors.
Yes, meteors are the small things we see all the time. They're easy to predict because they're part of comets, and anytime the same day each year we pass through the comet's orbit, we see the meteor. Fireballs are completely different. They're the broken pieces of an asteroid, and they can come at any time from any direction. They're the ones that we're working hard to try and predict. because the bigger ones can be a problem.
Right, because we hear about meteor showers all the time, always coming at the same date every year, but it's those standalone ones that if they were too big, we really would want to see coming, right?
Yes.
And you've mentioned that there have been some scientific studies where scientists have actually started to predict some of these standalone meteors that are outside of showers.
Yes, in the last 15 years, the U.S. astronomy community has made a concerted effort to survey all near-Earth asteroids, and they actually found one in 2008, days before it hit the Earth. So they were able to predict exactly when and exactly where in 2008 it would hit.
Goodness, and you actually have a piece of space rock with you from one of these meteors, right?
And I have a piece of space rock from the Allende meteor, one that hit in 1969 in Mexico. It was about the size of a minivan as it was coming down. Would have been a really impressive meteor fireburst at that time.
Very neat. Well, we'll continue to watch for some of these fireball meteors. Of course, the observatory here at Calvin College is open every Wednesday to the public for viewers. I think the only thing more rare than a meteor at this point is maybe catching a break in the clouds at the same time as one to see it.
Look at that. That's actually a Snapchat of what a lot of people were feeling in the Northeast on Thursday afternoon. Kind of a weird situation. There was a lot of shaking going on, but then you went to the website of the U.S. Geological Survey, who usually reports earthquakes as soon as they happen, and there were no reports of earthquakes. So this was kind of a big mystery on social media all afternoon. Let me just show you before I tell you what it was, that this is where most people were feeling the shaking. It was in South Jersey, but you could feel stuff as far north as parts of Connecticut. I mean, we're getting some reports from up there. Now, we have gotten confirmation from the USGS that at least the first round of shaking, which was at about 1:24 in the afternoon, that was a sonic boom off the coast of the Jersey Shore. Now, there have been several incidents of shaking since then. I would imagine those are probably sonic booms as well. Can't be 100% sure, but this was definitely fun to follow. Nice little afternoon mystery game.
It's pretty violent
on
this
Twitter
time.
during the
Really
day.
shook the house.
A man living in St. James City on Pine Island in Lee County wondering what's causing his house to, as he puts it, violently shake. And he's not alone. We've been getting a number of calls, emails, and Facebook postings from other viewers telling us you experience the same thing. 4 in the Corner's Lisa Greenberg working to get to the bottom of this to get you answers. Lisa?
Well, Patrick, we've been hearing a lot about sonic booms felt here in Southwest Florida for the last couple weeks. One man tells me he's felt his house shaking several times, but today it was worse than ever. What's interesting, a Navy spokesperson tells me they didn't have any aircrafts operating here around that time.
For the last few weeks, it's been like clockwork.
Every time it's happened, it's been the exact same time.
10:55 a.m. every single time.
They've been keeping track of it.
Dwayne Dyer's house up on stilts, shaking like an earthquake.
You can feel it more or less starting downstairs and work its way up.
But this morning, he says it was worse than ever.
It was pretty violent this time. Really shook the house.
He's lived here for 12 years and even went through a hurricane here.
And we did get some vibrations, but this is equal to, and I think worse than, what we felt in Hurricane Charlie. So that's pretty dramatic.
Dramatic, and now a mystery. Dyer says he's heard about the sonic booms caused by naval training in the last couple weeks, but says what he felt this morning...
But I really don't think it's a sonic boom. I think it's something else. I don't know what it is, because it is. I think it's more in the ground.
And he says he would know.
And I'm a commercial pilot. I used to fly for years. I've spent years in the atmosphere, and I've never heard a sonic boom like that.
When I reached out to a Navy spokesperson to see what the deal was, I was told there weren't any jets operating in the area. So maybe Dyer is right. What's more, the twisting and shaking is causing damage to his home.
The tiles throughout the house are actually starting to pop loose. Every time this happens, it seems like 1 or 2 more tiles is getting loose.
Check out this photo of the cracked off-white tile in Dyer's home. He says the tile under this throw rug is loose.
Eventually it's going to... We're going to have to replace the floor. Sure, it's not covered under insurance.
And as much as he'd like a fix for his floor, he's searching more for answers.
What's causing this is what I want to know.
Now, since we are near the MacDill base in Tampa, I reached out to the Air Force spokesman there to see if that's where the booms are coming from, but I haven't heard back yet. I also contacted the Lee County spokesperson who says she's not aware of anything going on locally that could be causing this, but I'll continue to keep working to get you all some answers. Live in the studio, Lisa Greenberg, Fox 4. in your corner.
Local business owner, that sinking feeling is back tonight.
A massive sinkhole is growing next to a plant center in Anderson Township. It's happened before, but in a story you'll see only here on Local 12. Anjanette Levy reports this time there is some good news. Anjanette?
Well, Rob, there is a temporary fence that's been put up around this sinkhole tonight, so no one walking by falls in and gets hurt.
Blizzard is sweeping across much of middle America. The zone of snow extends from Colorado to Wisconsin. More than 13 million people are under the threat of winter weather. Nearly a foot of snow has fallen in Colorado alone in just 24 hours. In Kansas, vehicles had to be dug out. Blowing snow has made driving treacherous with little visibility. Big rigs have become stranded. Some sedans didn't even have a chance. Even snowplows were struggling. The snow cut power to at least 1,600 customers in Lincoln, Nebraska, where Moni and Lee Hedrick live.
It's a moment where you kind of go back to where people didn't have power, and you have to learn how to adapt.
Elsewhere today, it was unusually warm, from Chicago to New Orleans. Nashville set a record, 75 degrees. That warmth combined with strong winds will cause severe thunderstorms and a looming threat of tornadoes for nearly 9 million people from the Gulf Coast to Illinois.
Half of the country and summer-like severe weather for the other, all from the same massive storm system.
It got bad quick. The roads were covered. Snow was coming down pretty hard.
Whiteout conditions closed highways from Colorado to the Dakotas. The storm bringing up to a foot of snow in Wisconsin. Some areas getting 2 inches in only an hour. Down south, the storm looking much different.
Tornado on the ground. Tornado on the ground.
Several tornadoes were reported in Mississippi, one tearing across a community college campus. In Alabama, an extremely dangerous tornado hit near Aliceville, damaging homes as well as a federal prison.
I was too busy praying to worry about what was going on. I was just calling on the name of Jesus, asking him to take care of us. I didn't know what had happened until I came out of that closet and I saw everything around. Yeah, I got a little nervous then, but I was grateful to God. He brought us through it.
A total of 6 tornadoes have been reported in Mississippi and Alabama. Severe weather for the Midwest is expected to end today as that storm system works its way towards the eastern seaboard.